In just a few days, cash bail will be ending in Illinois. On September 18th, the Safety Act will take effect 2.5 years after Governor Pritzker signed it into law. Supporters say it will make the criminal justice system more equitable, but critics say it's going to make it even harder to keep dangerous criminals off the street. Let's bring in former Supreme Court law clerk Ian Samuel, also restoring integrity and trust in elections vice president Mailman, who was also the Trump administration's legal advisor. Ian, how can ending cash bail in Illinois make the criminal justice system more fair for others?
Well, you can think about it like this. I can well understand the idea that there are some people who, before they're put on trial for criminal charges, should be detained in pretrial detention because maybe they're dangerous or maybe we're worried they won't show up for their trial. I can also understand the idea that there are some people who shouldn't be detained that way because, after all, you are presumed innocent and maybe you're going to be able to be out in the community before your trial. What I do not understand, and what I've never heard anybody actually explain, is why every poor person is in the first category and every rich person is in the second category. If a person should be detained pending their trial, why would you let them out of that if they're willing to or able to pay a large sum of money? Conversely, if they're able to be out in the community without a risk to anybody else, why would you charge them for the privilege before they've been convicted of anything? I have never heard a good argument for that, and I doubt I'm going to hear one in the future.
I believe that may have a good argument for that. Chicago is one of the many cities across the U.S. dealing with crimes and spikes. How can ending cash bail in Illinois make things worse?
Well, I don't think that the evidence that we've seen has been very promising for ending cash bail, including just the monumental strain it's going to put on the court system, because right now you're able to process people fairly quickly. You're not going to be able to do that. And so I really wonder what's going to happen to the arrest process, to the prosecution process, when people are not going to be able to have a bail set and then leave. There's going to be some sort of hearing to figure out what risk they're going to present to society. So I think there's just some tangible questions I have about how practically this is going to be implemented. But in Chicago already, 25% of crime victims are Black women. And we know that if you have more criminals on the streets, that recidivism rates are going to be high. I mean, this is well documented. So in California City, that reduced cash bail, they had a 70% recidivism rate for the people who benefited from the no bail policies. So my fear is that this is overweighing the interests of the criminals and underweighing the interests of the victims. But it is Illinois' choice, and if this is the route that they want to go, then it is certainly their experiment to have.
May, my immediate follow-up to that, to something you just said, though, what I don't understand is how the bail portion itself would somehow aid or debilitate the court from being able to process people through the system, like you suggested in the beginning. How is that a problem?
So Illinois' cash bail proposal, I guess now law, is a little bit different than New York's. For New York, it was no bail and you get set free, so I think you still had a somewhat fast process. In Illinois, the judge doesn't have or can't put bail on, but still can consider the risk of any defendant for any crime. And so in that case, you know, let's just say you're arrested for shoplifting, something somewhat minor, but you have a history of violent crimes. I really don't think that there's going to be a simple and easy way to process those people. Are they a risk because they have risks in their past? And those are the type of people that in New York had a really high reoffense rate. So maybe you weren't arrested for a violent crime this time, but you have that criminal history. So I just think it's going to be a really big burden, a weight on an already strained court system.
Gotcha. Ian, how do you respond to that and to those who say this will make Illinois a more dangerous place?
Just to be clear, the argument that has just been made is that individualized treatment of criminal defendants to assess individualized risk of danger is bad, that we should be engaged in essentially a group assessment. And because it is faster to detain everybody and just slap a price tag on it so that the rich people can get out, that's better. I have to say that is a remarkable argument. I have never heard anybody before say that the reason you want to have cash bail is because it gets around the bothersome problem of having to actually evaluate the individual facts in each case. And man, you can shake your head all you want. That's exactly what you said. The reason we shouldn't have a system like that is because our criminal justice system presumes individualized treatment, right? All of these people who are arrested should be treated as individuals by the criminal justice system. I would not have thought that that would be controversial. Apparently to some that it is.
May, I'm going to give you the last word. Go.
Right. I never said that it's bad to treat people individually. I said that that is a question that I don't know how the courts are going to deal with, and I'm interested to see. My concern is that the people who are not going to be treated individually is the victims, because if the victims there's rampant crime already in Chicago, and that raises, and yet you're not seeing arrests and you're not seeing prosecutions because the system is unable to handle it, then the people who are not going to be treated individually, considered individually, are the women, primarily poor people, primarily minorities, that are not getting their justice because somehow there's not an ability to deal with criminals.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.